Pro tip for the Ender 3, do not use acetone on the bed. Welcome back to George's Gadgets, everybody. I am George, and today we are going to be talking about the new Crealities 3D printer, the Ender 3. It's new to me. It's not really new to the whole scene because it's been out for a while, but I finally got my hands on it. And this thing is pretty darn cool. I'll go over my initial thoughts at the end of the video, but for now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go over the steps it actually takes to put this thing together. And I was extremely surprised at how short it really was. You're about to see like 8 minutes of assembly, and it took me probably about an hour and a half. Realistically, this thing could be put together in an hour if you knew exactly what you're doing and you didn't have to stop and look things up or go get coffee like I did. And then after the assembly portion, we're going to be talking about initial thoughts. So the goods, the bads, and I'll show you guys some prints that I got off of it. Alright, step one is going to be attaching these two aluminum extrusions to the main frame. The directions are laid out really well. It's not like previous Chinese printers that I've put together where it can be difficult to find the right tools or the right screws that you need. These ones have all the bags labeled correctly, and the pictures are like IKEA furniture, so it makes it really easy. Once we're done attaching that, then it's on to step two, and this is going to be attaching the LCD screen to the frame along with the power supply. When I did the power supply, I didn't realize that it actually sits off the bottom of the frame a little bit, and I wasted like 5 minutes trying to figure out how that cord was going to feed through the aluminum extrusion, but you don't have to worry about that because it actually sits maybe a 1/4 inch off the bottom. Step three is the Z end stop, and there's a lip that's on the plastic piece that prevents you from putting it too low. It was pretty nifty and really quick to install. Step four is another easy step, and we're going to be attaching the Z-axis stepper motor, and then we slide the rod in there and then tighten it up. Some of the things, like we need to change 3D printing terminology. Sometimes I just feel dirty saying that. Step five is going to be your extruder motor and your X-axis. To attach these, there's a little cutout, and the button screw fits directly into that so that you know you're putting it in the correct way. You don't have to worry about possibly putting it in the wrong way. If it sits flush, you're good to go. Step six, we're going to be using the same part and we're just going to be building upon it. We're sliding the hot end on there, and then we're going to attach the next set of wheels so that it can't slide off. And then this is what's actually going to go onto the frame. You're just going to attach it and slide the Z-rod into the threaded nuts. Before that though, what we're going to be doing is feeding this belt through and attaching it to the hot end. And you got to make sure, this is the only part that I had to redo. But you have to make sure that your gold parts of the belt are facing down, pointing the same direction that the hot end is. Once that's all done, we're on to step 8, and what we're doing is allowing the belt to move back and forth freely. So you're going to slide this in, push it all the way, wrap the belt around it, and then pull it tight and tighten it. And we are a little over halfway, ladies and gents. It's time for some staring at the printer. Ooh, so good. Step 9 is the part where you slide the X-axis gantry down onto the frame. It takes a little bit, and sometimes it feels like it's too snug, but once it pops on there, it slides up and down super easy. I will be upgrading mine in the future to have 2 Z-axis threaded rods and motors. Step 10, we're going to be attaching the top portion, and you know, honestly, like, I thought this wouldn't be very rigid, but it is extremely sturdy considering that there's just a few screws in every section that hold it all together. I was very happy with how rigid it felt. Step 11 involves the cheapest filling part of this whole thing, and it is the filament holder. It's just it felt like it was 3D printed pipe, but I'm not 100% sure, but it just goes through that aluminum part, and then you know, put in your inserts and screw it and attach it to the top. The whole extrusion system on this printer, you know, I'll talk about it later, but it's my least favorite. The last and final step before you get into leveling your bed is attaching all of the electronics. Everything is labeled really well, a lot like it is on the Prusa and other printers I've seen, and it's pretty self-explanatory. But here's all the locations for the plugs. This is a tool I use to level my printers if they don't have automatic bed leveling, and it comes in really handy. Paper has deviations just like everything else. This is as close as you can get to paper, and it's always the same every single time, so you don't have to worry about having to change those minor things. But you just do it in every corner and in the center, and then you should be good to start printing. Did you catch that? That's me looking up and praying to God that this turns on. I don't want this video to be 3 years long, so I'm going to try and move through this stuff, and I may miss some things, I may not include some things, and I apologize if you didn't get the information you wanted. Basically, the slicers that I used to print out the prints I'm about to show you were Cura for some of them, and Simplify 3D for the others. All the things I talk about, I'm going to leave a link in the description below, so all the prints, any tools I mentioned, my affiliate links to GearBest and Amazon for this printer, and if you use those, it'll definitely help me out. So let's kind of jump into the discussion about the printer. I want to end this on a positive note, so let's start off with all the things I don't like about it. And I have a notepad, which I will be consulting because I wrote down some stuff. First and foremost, the thing I don't like about this is the extrusion system. I don't like how the extruder is extremely close to the Z-rod, and it makes me afraid that maybe the filament will get tangled up. I'm sure they tested this. I'm sure they tried it out to see if it'll work or not. It's just something that worries me, and I don't like it. There's already a ton of fixes out on Thingiverse that will let you upgrade this or change it a little bit so that you don't have to worry about that. It's just something that I don't like. So that brings me to my next point, is there's only one Z motor and one Z rod, and just not based off my own experience, but based off of what a lot of people have told me, is that as you print things, one will slightly be higher than the other because obviously it's not equally distributed, and so your prints will kind of get warpy. And I think that explains maybe some of the imperfections in some of my prints that I had. Something that's just kind of nitpicky, but I felt like I wanted to mention it, is I didn't like the initial smell when I first started printing with the printer. It instantly like fumigated my house. Everything reeked, and I didn't like it at all. It was a very electronics, chemically burning smell. The bed I don't like because I've been spoiled by the magnetic flex plates. I'm interested in getting a build tech for this printer to see if it will fix that issue for me. I'm sure it will because, you know, they're great. the one that I currently have is now destroyed because I was trying to clean it to make sure that I had a good print. Basically, I used acetone on it, which destroyed it, and then I tried to use a heat gun on it to try and dry it, and that destroyed it even further. So the bed I have is completely unusable at this point, which really sucks. The last two things are, I don't like the menu that comes with it. It feels really clunky and it doesn't really make sense. You go into prepare and control, because I'm used to my Hatchbox and I'm also used to my Prusa. So certain things that I expect to be in there aren't. I forgot to mention, for the extruder, there's no like quick way to load it. Every time I go to load the printer with filament, it's just one issue after another. I have to unscrew the nut to feed the filament in because it's getting stuck on something, and then you have to hand jam it in there. And I always do motions like this. Gotta stop that. So the menu sucks. And on top of that, there's no bootloader that comes with this. So to upgrade the firmware, you have to manually install a bootloader. I believe Tom's done one bootloader install for the Ender 3, and I totally recommend that if you guys do get this, you install the bootloader so you can upgrade the firmware, because there is a severe lack of safety precautions on this printer. If your printer hot end, the thermistor gets decoupled for whatever reason, the printer won't know that, and it will just think that it's not heating up properly and heat up until it eventually burns down your house. So it's a very good idea to upgrade the firmware so that you are safe. I don't know if Creality has changed that with their later shipments, but the one that I have doesn't have that installed on it. Enough whining, let's talk about the good. And there is a ton of good for this printer. First off, let's talk about price. I got mine through Amazon because I got a discount code, and basically I got it for 180 bucks. And that is crazy cheap for a 3D printer from Amazon, and for one that prints this quality. You can also get them through GearBest for around 170 to 180 bucks regularly. I wouldn't pay over $200 for this printer. Not saying it's not worth it, but you can just get a good deal if you hold off and wait until it's on sale. So the price is crazy to beat. I mean, a Prusa is like 700 bucks for the kit and about 1,000 bucks if you buy it like where they make it. And it's a great printer, don't get me wrong, you know I love it. I talk about it all the time. For 200 bucks, you get extremely close to that quality, and if you have been waiting to pull the trigger on a 3D printer and you've been wondering if one is good for the money, this is it. Not the best 3D printer. It's not the best 3D printer. It's not going to have all the features that a lot of high-end printers have. But to bring into a classroom to teach kids, or to have your family experiment and have fun with it, this is an amazing one, and it's super easy to put together. So that brings me to my next one. The setup time for this was like an hour and a half. Price is really good. Setup time's really good. And the noise level is not the best, but it's not the worst either. And it's weird, is the noises that come from this printer are different than other printers I've had. This printer, the sound is like a robot, really, more than a machine. My friends were over, we were playing some games, and they were like, do you have an alarm going off or something? Because there's just constant beeps that come from it instead of like that grinding metal that you hear from other printers sometimes. And this is a pretty fast printer. I mean, every time I printed something, I normally do overnight prints, which is probably dangerous because it doesn't have that heat detection. So maybe I should stop that. It's really fast. I printed out some things like this took, I think, about 7 hours, and it came out really good, and it didn't take that long. And then other ones like the Moon City that everyone loves to print, it took about 10 hours. I'm going to be showing you guys all these prints, and then we can talk about quality right now, because I do think that this printer has good quality for the money. So I printed out a few things. First off, I started off with their initial G code and their initial filament. And the funny thing is they don't send you enough filament to print out their initial G code. So I got halfway through it, and then I had to stop the print. So there's that. The second thing I tried to print was a Benchy, and it came out great. And then I printed out another Benchy with my personal flavor of Cura profile. And I think it came out better just because I think Cura Slice is better than Simplify 3D. And I know I'm probably going to be, crucified for that statement. So overall, I think that this print's amazing. It's a great first printer. For 200 bucks, you can't beat it. I wish I had started with this one because I wouldn't have done such a huge investment with my Hatchbox. And I would have been able to buy other things like a mosaic palette, which I'm going to set up once I get it on this printer. Or I could have bought, Raspberry Pis to set up Octoprint. I could have bought a bunch of other things that I needed. But yeah, I don't want to feed you guys a bunch of BS. I'm not trying to tell you to go out and buy this printer. I'm just saying that if you don't have a printer, and you were looking to get one, and you're worried if this is going to be like the TiVo, which my friend experienced, and that's why it's sitting, you know, in this case, still unfinished. There's some great things about it. There are some setbacks, but this is the best value for your money at this time would be the Ender 3. That is all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this. I really love putting these videos out there for you, but I will be putting out more videos about the Ender 3 in the future. I really appreciate you guys watching. I hope to see you guys again. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. If you could do me a favor and like this video if it's something that benefited you. And if you're thinking about getting one of these, go ahead and go down and go through my links. GearBest and Amazon are down there, and it really helps out the channel. It helps me keep making more content. I will see you guys in the next video.